Hello, and welcome to this edition of Kingdom Conversations with Carlos Head. And for just a moment, I want to talk about and encourage us to make 2024 the year that we get to God beyond names and beyond religion. The year that we begin building a more equitable world that benefits good people of all labels. I mean, think about it. We all want for each other equal opportunities. That's equal opportunities of building lives of success, happiness, peace, and significance. We want people to not be unfairly harassed and discriminated against because of their race, their religion, their nationality, or their gender. Think about it. We want to live in a world of peace that's not divided, not at war over God or over our different human labels. Well, we can have those things. The ball is in our court, and we just have to decide to build a better world that helps the next generations to live together beyond names, beyond religion, beyond all the divisions that keep us divided and at war with one another, but that helps them to live together beyond names, beyond religion, in a diverse world, united in the philosophy of one. Well, how do we get there from this place of division, this place of war, racism, religious intolerance, nationalism, sexism, and political and cultural divisions? How do we get there from where we are? And part of the solution is simply knowing God beyond names and religion. It's challenging the status quo of being divided, being at war with one another over God, over religion, and over our different human labels. And then there's deciding to see and to engage one another, engaging the human in each other before we begin considering the human labels of people. Too often we consider the human labels before we consider the human, and we find ourselves engaging with the human label. So I'm engaging with a black man as opposed to engaging in a human. And if I'm white or if I'm of some other persuasion, then it may dictate how I interact with that person. Whereas if I can interact with the human before I interact with the human label, then it helps me to improve our human relations with one another. And so I suggest that you just ask yourself, well, let me ask you, how has fighting and separating, whether it was over God, over religion, over our different human labels, benefited us as a human collection of people? I mean, just think about the animosity that exists between Christians and Muslims. Look at the war that's happening now in Israel, between Israel and Palestine. Or think about the divisions that exist between whites and blacks or whites and brown people. Just think about it. What has the status quo cost us? I mean, if nothing else, we can all, or we should all be able to agree that it's cost us centuries of squandered opportunities at living together beyond our human labels in peace. We've had the opportunity to live beyond labels, live beyond the divisions of white and black, Christians and Muslims, American and foreigners. We've had the opportunity and we've squandered them because we've not known God beyond names and religion. We've fractured the foundation that was created to unite us as humans. And the cost has been a high cost. An even more important question that we've got to ask ourselves is, what's likely to happen if we continue traveling down the road that we're currently traveling? If we keep doing the same things that we've been doing, or how likely are we to continue to get the same outcomes, the same results that we've gotten so far? See, I heard it once said that one of the definitions of insanity is continuing to do the same thing, expecting different results. And I just believe that if we're going to produce a different fruit, or we're going to produce a different tree, that if the seeds that we're currently planting aren't capable of producing those outcomes, then we've got to plant a different type of seed. And if we look at the seeds that we've been planting, well, it becomes evident that those seeds have created division, war, and destruction. And so the question then becomes, will we do something different to begin building a more equitable world for us and our children? Or will we continue to do the same things that have only gotten us divisions and wars over God, over religion? I'm only asking that you make the decision today to begin the journey of getting to God beyond the divisions that keep us fighting one another. I'm asking that you would join me in challenging the status quo of being each other's enemies, being each other's adversaries, being each other's competitors, simply based upon our different human labels. Think about it. And for a moment, I'll talk about the God piece in the equation of finding a solution to begin to build a better world that benefits all of us. And I'll talk about the God piece because the God piece is the foundation of all knowing. It's the foundation of all understanding. It's the getting to God beyond names and religion piece that's vital to solving the problem of our division. See, how many of you know that your mind is the master? It's the case for all of us. Our minds are the masters and our bodies are simply the slaves to our minds. It's why our actions are the byproducts of our thoughts. Think about it. Just think about it. And so we can trace our lives back. We can look at where we are in life and trace it back to and through our thoughts. Our thoughts created our words. Our thoughts created our actions. Our actions created our outcomes. Our outcomes created our lives. But it begins with the thought. It begins with the thought. So what are the thoughts that the world and religion has taught us about God that has us divided? Well, one of the things that has taught us is that Jehovah is different from Allah. That Jehovah and Allah, that they're competing for supremacy in the earth as a legitimate God, as the real God. Well, the world and religion also taught us that the Jewish God is different from the Muslim God, that the Jewish God is different from the Indian God, and that I think worst of all of that, or the worst part of that equation, is the fact that the world and religion has also taught us to be at war and to be divided over God, over religion, and over our different human labels, as if using a different name to identify one versus the other somehow, I won't say delegitimizes, or it deconstructs the human connection that exists between all of us. And so the world has constantly taught us things that has resulted in the fracturing of the foundation of one that was meant to unite us, so that even when our diversity became a consideration, that we would be so united in truth. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we just unite in more religion or more customs or traditions. I'm suggesting that we begin to walk in the truth of our foundation, which is of one. See, the path to God beyond names and religion is a path where we consider universal and timeless perspectives. When we think about God, we don't put him in the box. We remove him from time dispensations, and we recognize that he's the same in the beginning and the end, that he's the same in the east and the west. So it helps when we look at God as it relates to deconstructing or finding God in a world of multiple gods, that we begin to take God out of the box of religion, out of the boxes of being just a national or a regional God of some. It's looking at God and knowing God from the four aspects that make God the same in the beginning, the same in the beginning and the end, the same in the east and the west. That makes him the same irrespective of what we call him. And so it's important we know God as a spirit. This is one of the four aspects of knowing God beyond names and religion, that we know him as a spirit in a two-dimensional world of spirit and physical. It's also knowing him as the essence of universal and timeless good in a world of good and evil. It's understanding God in his roles as creator, as judge, as sustainer, as our father. And then it's knowing though and understanding the oneness of God, being able to extrapolate God and his oneness when considering that we're in a world of multiple religious gods, ethnic gods, national gods, and still being able to remain connected in that foundation of one that God created to unite us even before our human labels. See, many of us only unite skin deep. And so if you're black and I'm black, then we can unite in our blackness. If you're white and I'm white, then we can unite in our whiteness. If I'm Christian and you're Christian, we can unite in our Christianity. And it goes on and on and on, even down to the neighborhoods that we reside in. But very rarely, when we are using labels to self-identify, do we reach beyond just those labels to the label of humans. See, because that is the original label that unites us all. And when we get to God and we discover the truth about God beyond names and religion, we know that God didn't just create blacks, whites, Americans, Christians, or Jews, but that he created humans that self-identify by those names or by those labels, and then by all the other labels that we've invented in how we self-identify or how we identify others. When we get to God and understand the truth about God, we know that we're all members, we're all siblings of God's human family. And this is underneath our human labels. You know that God created us and that we're better off when we're taking care of one another as opposed to fighting and killing one another. If you're a parent, think about your children. How productive is it, or how pleasing is it to you to sit and watch them fight all the days of their lives? Because maybe one thinks that you like him more than you like his brother or his sister, and so, or because you allow one to call you something that the others don't call you, and that they then use those things to fight all the days of their lives. When you know God beyond names and religion, you rise above those types of divisions, and you understand that it's not about our religiousness, but it's about our righteousness. And you begin to align yourself so that you call right, right, and you call wrong or evil, evil. That you begin to stand up against the evils of racism, religious intolerance, xenophobia, sexism, greed, hate, because you know that they're destructive to our humanity. And in terms of actions that we can engage in that then begin to move us towards building a better world that benefits good people of all labels beyond the destructiveness of fighting over our differences, well, we can begin to engage one another with peace and with the respect for their humanity. For their humanity. Many times I have to ask myself, why are people seemingly so angry that we won't even engage or give people the benefit of the doubt? We just pounce, we just engage as if the world is us against the world. And when you take into consideration that we've been taught that our different labels represents justification to separate and to divide in competition and war, then it makes it easier. It makes it easier to mistreat others because they're not like us. Because I don't have to engage them with peace and respect because I hadn't seen the humanity in them before I allowed myself to see the human label in them. And so we can begin to engage one another with peace and respect. We can also begin to forgive more easily. Didn't say don't call right wrong or act as if racial supremacy didn't exist in America, as if it doesn't still exist in America. No, I'm not saying be delusional, but I'm saying that it's important that if we're going to move forward, personally and collectively, that we find a way to forgive easily for ourselves, just for the freedom that it gives us personally. See, because we're not our best when we're angry. We're not our best when we're resentful. We're not our best when we're in the bondage of unforgiveness. I don't care how often you tell yourself that you operate better in those states. You're just not. We don't think our best when we're mad. We become very reactive. Instead of responding to situations, we become very reactive. We have knee-jerk reactions, which is why it seems as if so many of us are angry at the world, which then translates to destructive behavior, one person to another, which is why you look around and we can certainly do better as a people. But we don't think our best when we're mad. So actions that we can engage in is to begin to engage life, engage people, engage ourselves differently. And that begins with understanding and knowing God different. Because that's the foundation of all of our understanding. We find our own worth. We find our own identity. We find our own place in the world based upon what we believe about God. And so if this is the case, then it makes sense that we would get all the way to God and not just halfway to God, especially when we think about the fact that halfway to God is representative of Jehovah being different from Allah, Allah being different from Brahma, black being different from white, American being different from Middle Eastern. Not just to recognize and to appreciate the diversity in which God created us, but for the purpose of war and division. And so we've got to be able to understand God beyond the divisions of names and religion for us to be able to understand ourselves, so that we understand that He created us connected as humans before we're disconnected as based upon race or religion or nationality. It's to see yourself in each other, to see your humanity. We can all do this. See our humanity in each other, and then engage one another as humans before we engage the human label that so often gets all the attention. I see you so I can see that you're black. I hear you so that I can hear that you're probably from up north and not down south. So if I use those things to determine how I'm going to interact with you, then I've missed your humanity. And then it allows me to engage you disconnected, which keeps us from building a more equitable world because I see different instead of seeing myself. I hope this is making sense to you. I hope it's making sense to you. And again, let me say that you can decide to do nothing with this information. But why choose more of the same thing when we can see the destructiveness of that? Why do the same thing when there's a better, easier way of approaching God, of approaching the subject of God, of approaching each other as it relates to God, that then keeps us from fighting all the wrong battles, that helps us to find the oneness in which God created us to live? You can discover this truth. We can get to this place, but it begins with deciding that 2024 is going to be the year that we get to God beyond names and religion. The year that we begin to build the personal success that we want inside out. The year that we begin to build the world that God wants for us collectively. A world that benefits good people of all labels. A world that doesn't advantage some over others based upon race or religion or nationality, but that calls us to be world citizens when we look out for the human and not the human label. Make 2024 the year you join me. Join One Ministries, join the Unity movement in building a better world that saves us from self-destruction. Follow me on social media at Carlos Head 07 or 07. Or you can find more about knowing God the way that He's always wanted us to know Him beyond names and religion, to find out more information about God beyond names and religion. You can register for and join me on a free Kingdom Conversation call this week. That's about God, where we discuss the four universal aspects of who God is. We look at different aspects within those four main categories to help you really to understand and know God the way that He's always wanted us to know Him. And you can go and register for that free Kingdom Conversation call at realtruth.carloshead.com. Or if you're just ready right now and you know that you're ready to get started getting to God beyond names and religion, and you're ready to start now, you can just go over to university.carloshead.com and you can enroll in the online course there, The Real Truth About God Beyond Names and Religion. And so I just encourage you to make a winning decision today. Make a winning decision and register to get yourself on solid footing. I'm not suggesting that you're not on solid footing, but why not just make sure? Why not make sure as you begin to make 2024 one of the best years of your life? With that, I'll see you on the next edition of Kingdom Conversations. People normally say to me, be blessed. And I typically turn that around and say, go out and be a blessing. So I'll say to you, as I say to others, go out and be a blessing. And until next time, I love you. See you next time.